There's two quotes I'd like to share with you. One was from John Seeley Brown. John Seeley Brown runs Xerox PARC, which I think is the most profitable research facility on the planet. You can thank them for your mouse and your GUI interface, amongst other things. They also do a great deal of social research there in terms of organisational philosophies and stuff like that too. And he made a great comment at a conference that he spoke at a little while ago. He said the real problem for senior management these days is that they lose their peripheral vision, that their life becomes dominated by an ever narrowing set of numbers from which they tend to drive and try and organise the business. And he may have been overstating it a little bit, but I think that it is a significant challenge to the modern organisation, that I see a increasing disconnect between the people that have to make strategy, the senior management, and the people that have to deliver strategy, which are the people that are populated down through the organisation. We hear conversations about stovepipes, people being caught in their individual function and not being connected to the rest of the organisation. So the disconnect that I'm speaking to doesn't just exist between senior management and the teams that appear down through the organisation. It also exists across teams that are supposed to be working in a collaborative way to fulfil the aims of the business. And that this, if you like, lack of peripheral vision is, first of all, potentially enormously costly. There's an enormous amount of wasted effort in almost any organisation of scale because of that lack of connectivity. And it has significant impact on the morale and the mindset of the people that work in organisations that have to deliver on strategy. There's a lovely quote here from a book called The Soul at Work by Roger Lewin and Baruch Regine, which talks about organisations that found new ways to engage with their people and as a consequence transform performance. And this is not some fancy little organisation. This is a guy who was tasked with transforming the performance of a DuPont chemical plant in the Midwest of America. And he says, what typically happens in companies is that managers will do a study of some proposal or other behind closed doors and then descend from Mount Olympus with the truth. The people at the front lines usually see right through it, what's wrong with the plans and so on. Then they self-organise and make things work anyway, very often saving the manager's bacon, but without the manager ever really being aware of just how much pain they went through to make that happen. We found it so much better to say, look folks, we don't know how to do this, help us please. And to do that you win in two ways. First, you get better solutions because people up against the problem have a better feel for what the best solutions are. And second, people become more fulfilled because they're involved and they can see that their ideas are valued. People begin to discover meaning in their work. And the search for meaning in our life is something which is true for all of us. The case study that I took that from, which is in this book, The Soul at Work, talked about a 95% improvement in health and safety records, 80% improvement in staff satisfaction, all because they got very, very clever about the way in which they engage their people in the challenges of the business. And I think that it's a challenge which companies do not embrace fully and certainly in my experience do not do as well as they possibly could. So the question is, how do you get that peripheral vision back? How do you get sight of the challenges and the issues that are faced by the people who day to day have to meet the real challenges of having your strategy be delivered? The simplest way you could say is that you walk about, that you spend time in your organisation. On British TV recently, they've had a series called Back to the Floor where managing directors are almost like Don disguises to actually go onto the shop floor of their organisations. And most of them have been astonished by what they see because they get so distant from the real challenges of the real people that work for them that usually they're surprised to hell when they actually go down and get their hands dirty themselves. The other thing is to start to put in place systems, practices and methodologies that keep you connected, and that the technology now exists to make that possible in a way that it has never been possible before. If this is something that you want to explore further, click on below and have a look at the way that Best Year Yet might be able to help you build far greater connectivity across your whole organisation then I guarantee that the transformation in performance will be staggering.